All right. So this time around, we're making a recap of the weekly price action of our previous focused and next week's our price action focused. And basically, what we'll be doing is we'll be going through different markets, starting with the Dixie, and we'll be going all the way to all the other markets that we'll be interested in going into week 3 of January. Right. So I'm not gonna be doing much. I'm just gonna be looking at what the only high time frame that is of interest to us as IPTA Insights, right? So let's get into it. Before then, let's look at next week's economic calendar. And right there on the get go, we can see on Monday we have a bank holiday, and I'm not trading Mondays. And Monday, as a bank holiday, is basically a low probability day for me. And the next day after a bank holiday is a low probability day by ICT. You can look that up on the previous price action. You would realize that the next day after a bank holiday is usually chaotic. And then going into Tuesday, we have all this news through, but let's focus on the UST news. We have 8:30 news and UST, and then Wednesday we got 8:30 again, and then on Thursday we got more 8:30 news, and then eventually on Friday we have 10 a.m. news. And all I can say with the coming weeks economic calendar is we'll be having a whole lot of what volatility injection, right? So we'll be expecting what fireworks going into next week. And there's another factor that I'm expecting a wild price action that I'll show you on the chart. And now let's get into the chart. So this was our previous week's focused, and we was expecting what downside delivery on the Dixie. And if you did watch the GU trade recap on Monday, you'll realize that we went into the lower time frames to actually anticipate why we would expect price to do what, to trade lower, right? And what did we get for this week? For this week, we got what? We got an inside bar. We got pure consolidation on the lower time frames. This is the weekly time frame of the Dixie, pure consolidation on the lower time frames. So if you look at this, right, if you look at this, you realize that there's something that ICT said about inside bars. He said, if you see an inside bar forming on the daily or on the weekly, then it usually signals what? Expansive or explosive price action following on the next day or the next week, depending on the time frame you're looking at. So looking at the economic calendar, right, we see a whole lot of what volatility injection in terms of what the high impact news, and looking at the chart, we see what an inside bar forming on DXY. It's more of price being compressed. It's more of a compression, and you know when you compress a spring, it's bound to do what? Explode out of your hand, right? And that is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting explosive price action for next week to attack what sell side liquidity right here and maybe eventually right there. But all in all, I'm favoring the downside for DXY up until price states otherwise. Now going into Euro USD, Euro USD we had price trading into this order block last week, and our focus was that the forecast was that we would eventually see price doing what? Trading away from this order block to attack buy side here and maybe right there. So these are the draws on liquidity, which are still intact if you look at the current price action. And going into next week, we're still expecting price to do what? Push away from this weekly order block. And right here, you can see, I forgot to annotate an important factor. You can see a swing low is being formed at what? At a key PDRA. So if a swing low is being formed at a key PDRA, you expect the fourth candle to do what? To expand in continuation to the upside here. It's something that ICT taught on core content month. I'm not sure about the month, but you can go and look that up. And let's go into GBP USD. As you can see, it's the same thing that was happening on Euro USD. So we trade into what? The weekly order block, and the anticipation was that we'll be trading higher from this area to attack buy side liquidity right here and get drawn to this relative equal highs that you see right there. So what did we get? We got this up close candle for this previous week. And what are we seeing here? As I labeled here, key PDRA in a form of a weekly order block, price forms what? A swing low right there. We expect the fourth candle to do what? Expand higher. And we've already seen what? compression on Dixie, so much volatility injections for next week. So the stars are aligning, right? The stars are aligning right there. Now moving on to NASDAQ, which is US 100, we had price dropping into this BC, and the anticipation was that price will continue trading higher. Why? Because the dollar was expected to be going lower. So lower dollar equates to what? Higher index markets in a proper market, in a proper scenario. So right here, what did we get this week? We saw price pushing higher, but fell short of what? That buy side liquidity pool right there. So what is our anticipation for next week? Since we're expecting dollar to do a trade lower, we're still expecting lower dollar to trade lower. We are going to be expecting what? Price to be trading higher and attack this buy side liquidity and beyond. So right here we had ES or S&P 500. Same thing with Nasdaq trading to a BC. Anticipation was for price to be drawn to this swing high, probably that swing high, and eventually that swing high. And what did we get? Expansive move, took out that swing high, but fell short of this swing high right here, which is where this swing high. So that will be our drawn liquidity for next week, and hopefully, right? I'm much confident on it, but you never know with price, right? But hopefully, if everything is pretty much in line, then hopefully we get price trading into this area and potentially drawing towards this very area here. Now, going into the German index, so we had this anticipation last week. Price was to trade higher with this particular value candle trade into the previous week's high and eventually the buy side liquidity pool. And what did we get? Price fell short of the consequent encroachment of this week right there. If you check it out on your chart, you'll realize that it fell short slightly below the consequent encroachment of the week, and we have that. So we're still anticipating what? Higher prices on this particular index market. Why? Once again, it's because of lower dollar anticipations. I'm not going to go into the lower time frames. That's for you to do. And if you look at how price traded into this PC, it took out sell side liquidity right here and tapped into this BC, overlapping with what? A breakout. We have a low, a high, and a lower low. So the opening price of this, the closing price of this up close candle becomes the breaker, and we can see how I annotated that with a faint orange line. So right there, you can see how price respects that, and the mini threshold, consequent encroachment rather of this BC is also respected. And all in all, what do we see? Price is forming what? A swing low in a key area, at a key PD array, right? In this case, at a key discount array. This BC bound to see price expanding on the fourth candle toward the external range liquidity pool. And lastly, we see what we have NZDUSD. I was looking at this chart. I didn't annotate it last week. The team didn't look at it last week. But if you look at NZDUSD, you realize that we are forming the same thing that I was talking about. A swing low at what? A key area, right? We expect what? The fourth candle to do what? To push higher. And you can see how bullish order flow is being respected. BC holds, comes back into this BC, comes back into what? This order block, and we are respecting all the what? The discount arrays and disrespecting what? All the premium arrays in terms of look how we overshot this bearish uh order block right there. We close above the main threshold of this two up close candles, and I'm still holding on to what? Prices to be trading higher than where they are right now. So with that being said, that will be that for next week's review. There were so many opportunities for this week. We had opportunities on GU, gold, Nasdaq, S&P 500, EU, whichever markets you're looking at, right? I cannot possibly point out at all the markets because we can only do little as individuals. So, and basically with trading, less is gold, right? You don't get results by trading a lot of markets or trading uh, through different setups and all that stuff, but you only get consistent results through what? Through trading your A setups in the most highest probable markets, right? The most of the kindest of price actions, right? So with that being said, see you next week, and let's hope for more fireworks, right? So yeah.